Sound check, 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 sound check. Sound check YouTube, sound check presenter's laptop, sound check. Sound check, sound check. Sound check, sound check. No, oh, don't do that. Sound check, sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Okay, yeah, girl. Upright meeting. Check, sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Why no sound? Sound check. Okay.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing.
And testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Madam Clerk, we are live. So anytime you're ready.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee to order. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are webcast live by the City of Hamilton and temporarily archived on the city's website. Before we start into the meeting, is there any member who would rather respond verbally to our votes and request to speak? So I believe we have Will on the line. So I will ask this question as we may have some members who are calling in for today's meeting. So we'll move on to our roll call. So as I announce the names, please just acknowledge that you're present. Councillor Pearson is not on the line. David Beeland. Janice Brown. Karen Burke.
Present.
Graham Carroll.
Here.
Charles Dimitri.
Present.
Bill Jansen.
Here.
Lynn Lundstead.
Here.
Robin McKee.
Present.
Smithy Ritchie.
Here.
And Will Rosart.
Here.
Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have under consent items delegated authority for heritage permit application for 25 Mill Street. Another a 7.2G heritage permit application for 5 Mill Street. 7.2H heritage permit application for 157 Mill Street North. 7.3 inventory and research working group notes that were deferred from the October 30th, 2020 meeting, and those meeting notes are from September 28th. We have 7.4 inventory and research working group notes from October 26th, and finally 7.5 inventory and research working group meeting notes for November 9th.
May I have a mover and a seconder on the motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Madam Chair, I believe Janice wishes to speak. Janice, you will have to unmute yourself. I cannot do that for you. Try it again.
Got it.
There you go.
Yes, just something. Now, I could be wrong, but I didn't think so. At the last meeting, I requested that we add Television City to our endangered buildings, and it was supposed to be 13.1A. And I know that I've been in touch with David, so between David and I, we will be speaking to this.
Okay, we'll get that on the list today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Thank you, Janice. So we have a mover and a seconder. So we have Tim and Karen. Okay. Is there any opposed to the approval of the agenda as amended? Seeing none, that item is carried. So before we move on to our declarations of interest, I just wanted to invite Anita Faybeck to speak to us in regards to some staffing. Will?
Good morning.
Will, can I just, okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share some, I think, maybe good news for Miranda, not so good news for us. Miranda, her last day with the city was this past Friday. Some of you may have heard this. She was successful in getting another position with Infrastructure Ontario as a heritage consultant. So unfortunately, with the timing of everything, she didn't get to join us today. Maybe she's listening to us from home. So I just wanted to thank her for all of her hard work over the last couple of years. The work that the cultural heritage planners do is quite significant, as you all know, and dealing with a lot of different issues, putting out fires, responding to me and Steve. So I just wanted to thank her for everything, to congratulate her on her new position. And I know that she will be missed here at the city. We are moving forward with hopefully filling the position. The posting will be going up shortly. As everyone knows, the two positions that we have are quite important to the work that we do here in the section and the division. So we'll be moving on that pretty quickly. But I just wanted to share that information with you.
Thank you, Anita. And I want to share those comments if Miranda is listening. We absolutely appreciate everything that she did for us, and the committee is nothing without the staff that support us and do the work behind the scenes. Really, they're much needed and need to be acknowledged for what they do. So I need to thank Miranda for all the hard work that she put into while she was here with the city, and congratulations on her new position. Anyone else with comments in regards? Seeing none, we will move on to our declarations of interest. Are there any declarations today? Seeing none, we will move on to our approval of the minutes of our previous meeting. May I have a mover and a seconder on the motion to approve the minutes of the October 30th, 2020 meeting as presented? We have Janice and Tim. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Moving on to our consent items, we have several consent items to be received. Graham, you have a question?
I have a comment to make on the minutes. Under general information, item K, for 187 to 89 Catherine Street North, it does not say Catherine. It only says 187 to 189 North Street, or Street North. So,
Thank you, Graham. I will fix that up immediately.
Okay.
Good catch, Graham. All right. So under our consent items, if there's no questions in regards to those properties, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive item 7.1 to 7.5? Bill, seconded by Graham. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. So we now move on to our discussion items, and David Addington is here to speak to the report. David, are you there?
Good morning.
Good morning, David.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me through the chair. So the staff report that's on the agenda today as a discussion item is related to the designation of Treble Hall and the Pagoda Building. So Treble Hall at 4 to 12 John Street North, and the Pagoda Building at 85 King Street East. So just a little background first of all. So the recommendation to designate the property was approved back in 2017 by council. Subsequently, the NOID had not been issued. I believe it was because at the time there was a variety of outstanding building permits as the property owner was undergoing a adaptive reuse to residential uses above and retaining commercial uses at the ground floor units. So as I came into this position, I became aware of this late last year, and so looking now to issue the NOID to have it officially designated to sort of complete this project. And in my when I was looking at the statement of culture, heritage value, or interest, and the descriptive heritage attributes that would form the descriptive part of the bylaw, I spoke to the property owner and viewed the site, and some of the interior items that previously been identified as heritage attributes back in 2017 had been removed. It looks like as part of the renovations. So it's mainly a few interior items, and so essentially this report is just to correct the statement of cultural heritage value and interest and description of heritage attributes and the NOID that actually goes out to actually reflect what is currently there. So instead of going with the previously council approved statement, which contains a few items that are no longer present. So the items on the interior that are no longer extant are the pressed metal ceiling coverings. So that's on one of the lower floor commercial units, and the plaster medallions. So both in the same lower floor commercial units, the south room of the most northerly ground floor unit. Molded baseboards and architraves on the upper stories, and the straight stairs in the midsection off the John Street North frontage. So that was actually replaced by an elevator to facilitate accessibility concerns for the adaptive reuse. So the owner had confirmed that those had been removed and they're no longer in place. the exterior attributes appear to be extant. So everything that was previously listed in 2017 as heritage attributes appears to still be in place. So, through just our analysis of the whether the property has retained its cultural heritage value, it's been determined that it still does. It still does hold its value in terms of the majority of the attributes that were identified in 2017 still exist. Of course, the removal of the interior items does, represent, a reduction of some of the physical and design attributes, because the attributes that were removed, they formed, ornamental and decorative attributes that are no longer present, unfortunately. However, the property still deserves recognition, and it's still a very strong candidate for designation, and we're hoping to move ahead with releasing the NOID this year before the changes to the Heritage Act. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That's great. So we'll start taking some questions. If we can get people to raise their hand, we'll start our speakers list. So I saw Tim go up first, and then Janice. Tim, if you'd like to start.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, to David, this is fantastic news, one we've been waiting for. It followed kind of the same lesser scale, I guess, we did with the Connaught, holding this off until they tore everything out of the building. Until they finished their renovations. And my question for you is, if you visited inside, I was really searching through my old photos to see if I could find this. I understand there was two sort of Chinese lantern type light fixtures. I remember the previous owner, Jeff Feswick, said the new owners had insisted on keeping those. And I don't know if during your visit or pictures, if those had been retained. They were in the second floor, I believe, which is now a residential space.
So through the chair, thanks, Tim. Just to clarify, I actually wasn't able to go on site because of COVID. We're not able to actually do a supervised or a co-site visit. We can always go on our own to see the exterior, but to actually accompany somebody, unfortunately, we can't at this time. But I did have correspondence with the owner, and he confirmed that those the interior attributes I've listed in my report and I just mentioned have been removed. I can ask him about the lanterns and get back to you. I don't believe that they were listed originally as heritage attributes. So my focus was just ensuring that the NOID that goes in the statement of cultural, the associated statement and description of heritage attributes are as up to date as possible. So yeah, I can always ask him and get back to you if I do find out about that. But again, they weren't listed originally as attributes.
Yeah, that's great, and I think it's a wonderful thing that this is finally happening.
Thank you, Tim. Janice, you're next.
Thank you, and through the chair again to David for some clarification. This was obviously before my time, but obviously know the building very well, as I grew up along that stretch. So I'm happy also to see this moving forward. However, I'm at the background part, and it has to do with perhaps timelines. First of all, was this building not on the Downtown Built Heritage Inventory? And how would it have been identified as a resource? Secondly, if it had been identified as a resource, thirdly, would it not have had to go through, and I guess it did, this cultural heritage assessment, and all of those attributes then were listed? How is it that the building permit that was in place prior to when did all this happen? My timeline is very confusing. That's my question.
Through the chair, so offhand, I'm not too sure how they had the request to come in to designate the property. I'm not too sure if that came in prior to the Downtown Built Heritage Inventory. So I'm not too sure if the building, just offhand, if it was placed on the register first through the inventory, or if it was via the request to designate. But either way, it was put on the register. So it has been put on the heritage register. So in terms of, as you would know, that when a property is on the register, it does not protect specific items. It just prevents that. It provides the interim protection from demolition of the wholesale building. So I'm forgetting the second part of your question. Oh, sorry, Janice, you're
Janice,
actually
you need to
muted.
unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, the cultural heritage assessment. It didn't list any of those internal attributes. It just, and that had to, that's my question. That was the second question.
Thanks for reminding me. No, it's Monday morning. My memory is not great this morning, apparently. So it did list those. So in terms of the statement, the original statement included the items from the cultural heritage assessment that was done as part of the designation. So again, that was done, I believe, almost concurrently with the renovations. So I believe they were happening around the same time, because when the property did go to planning committee and to council to be designated, at that time there already had been open building permits on the property. So that's the renovations were already underway at that point. So that's likely the reason why the NOID was sort of withheld at that time. I don't know if the cultural heritage plan at the time understood the full extent of the interior renovations or not. Unfortunately, I wasn't here at that time, but yeah, so the renovations and when the property went forward for recommendation to designate is basically all at the same time. And when the cultural heritage assessment had been done, it was done the year previous. So that was done a little bit earlier, as that's the background work that does take a bit of time, and then it finally advances up to staff for the recommendation, and it usually takes a couple of years to have that done. So does that answer your question, Janice?
Thank you, David. It does, but it also presents a concern because I think, regardless, it's unfortunate that those attributes would have been lost. So I'm hoping that this is not. I don't think it's normal. I don't know what's normal today. So there you go. But that's my concern, and thank you for answering as best you could.
Thank you for that question, Janice. Is there any other members wishing to ask a question? Seeing none, we'll move on to Will, did you have a question?
No, I just want to make a comment. Way back in the early 80s, I was involved with Howard Mark, who had a painting program of historical buildings downtown. And we got Mr. Wortman, who the then owner before Feswick, I think, to paint the place. And it was in a horrible mess before the 80s. And that painting has actually lasted to now without getting redone. So just a comment.
No, that's some good background. Thank you, Will. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to our recommendations. So we have before us the recommendation that the revised statement of cultural heritage value or interest and description of the heritage attributes of 85 King Street East and 4 to 12 John Street North, Hamilton, attached as Appendix A to Report PED 17167A be approved, and that the city clerk be directed to take appropriate action to designate 85 King Street East and 4 to 12 John Street North, Hamilton under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act in accordance with the revised notice of intention to designate attached as Appendix B to Report PED 17167A. So those are our recommendations before us. May I have a mover and a seconder to approve the report? So we have Robin and we have Karen. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Thank you, everyone. So moving along, we're down to our general information items. At this time, we have our list of buildings and landscapes. Again, the best approach may be just to take it as one speaker at a time. And if you can speak to your multiple properties, just identifying what color and the letter and number of your property. So if anyone would like to speak or provide an update, if you can just raise your hands and we'll get you on the speakers list. So we'll start with Janice and then Tim.
Yes, actually, through the chair, I would like David to respond to this, and it is Television City. I sent through some images that Jim Charlton was more than delighted to take for me, and I was looking at the report that David had written for the site plan application and looking at what was important to the conservation of this building. and the agreement that the owner should enter into. And one thing that really concerned me was the amount of vegetation on the east side, across the front, into the windows, into the eaves, and then the vegetation on the north side. And I did not go around to the west side of the building. I think that is extremely harmful to that building that was constructed, I think 1850 something or other. It might have been 53. It is, I'm not sure, again, it's some sort of stone, whether it's limestone, but from everything that I know, and that's not a lot, the vegetation, it shouldn't be there. It should be removed, and it is not a difficult job to remove. My second concern, and through the chair to David, was I have no idea whether this is a vacant building, whether it's checked regularly. I don't know who's in there. The last time it was used was for a big party to announce the opening of the development of Television City, and then it was served as a holding center to sell units. But I don't think anybody has done anything in the last maybe 2 years, maybe 3. I'm off base there. So thank you. Those are my questions and concerns.
Through the chair, so I'll just address your second question first, Janice. So it is not actually a vacant building. It is still being used, I believe, by CHCH. So I was confirmed that with the manager of bylaw enforcement. And I did forward your concerns onto the same department, the bylaw enforcement, in terms of how the vegetation growing on the building, how it affects the property standards bylaw, and more specifically the components of the bylaw that relate to heritage preservation for designated buildings. And so they are looking into it. They are looking into seeing if that's the owner can remove that vegetation in short order. So I haven't gotten updates since they've confirmed that they've sent it to an officer and are looking into sort of remedying that. They did have to know that the vegetation would affect the heritage attributes, and we do have a cultural heritage impact assessment that does recommend, as part of the wholesale conservation plan that will be done as a part of the site plan for the building. Conservation plan has not been done yet, but the cultural heritage impact assessment does refer to the vegetation having a detrimental effect, and so we can use that as a basis to hopefully have municipal bylaw enforcement and enforce the property standards bylaw as it relates to a designated heritage building. So that's still ongoing. I don't have an answer of when or what the result of any communications between bylaw and the property owner, but it has been referred on to them, so they are aware of that.
And if I may, through the chair, refer to that. Thank you, David, for that. I really appreciate. And I know you're busy, but if you don't natter after them, I probably will natter after them, because the longer this vegetation stays on that building, the worse it becomes. So I am extremely concerned. I would hate to see that building come down because of demolition by neglect. I just think that would be tragic. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Tim, you were next.
There we go. I don't know how to use a computer anymore. Yeah, mine is a twofold question through the chair. It's also to David. We had an email and some photos I sent him regarding 134 Cannon Street East, the Cannon Knitting Mills. And David had informed me that he was passing on the information to property standards, and I was wondering what an update from that, first of all.
Yes, through the chair. Thanks, Tim. I have referred your photos and the concern on to municipal bylaw enforcement as well, so I'm keeping them busy. I hadn't got an initial response from my first email, and then so I waited for about a week or so, and then I followed up about midway through last week, and I haven't had a response for this property, unfortunately. So I'm hoping to get a response this week to see if I can get confirmation that's being looked into. But unfortunately, I don't have more of a substantive update than that at the moment. But I'm still, in the process of looking into it.
Okay, and to add to the file, no physical changes have happened in that time. No graffiti has been removed. No windows have been closed. No cleanup measures have gone on. So it is still exactly as when those photos came. Was that about 3 weeks ago, David? I can't remember the time. Yeah.
Through the chair, yeah, it would have been probably right after our last meeting in October, or the date of our last meeting, probably.
And then just through the chair, my second question, it's regarding Hanner Hands. I didn't know if there had been any move to have that put on the registry or the inventory. I wasn't able to locate that information because I know it is our only black property. But I have seen yesterday actually quite a bit of construction work going on at the property. So I'm assuming there's some kind of permits, but I'm guessing it remains on our black watch list because it doesn't have any kind of heritage protections to it.
Through the chair, you're right. It is. I believe it's still on the inventory, as far as I can recall. But through previous updates from members of the community and different members of this committee, it does sound like they are adaptively reusing the building. And I personally haven't been contacted by the developer, so I don't have any updates, from the developer themselves, but just through community, the community knowledge, that's what I have heard, is that it is to be adaptively reused.
Yeah, same here. I don't have anything either. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, David. Do we have any other members wishing to give updates on their property? So I see Robin, and then we'll go back to Janice. Robin, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to talk about 13.1A red XIV, which is the Akmar Gatehouse. This, through you, Chair, to the staff. Are we any closer to the designation of the gatehouse, seeing that the new Heritage Act is coming in January? And this is now, well, let's say December. And this is where we were last year with the same question that I gave last
year. Through the chair, there's been no changes, Robin.
Will it be designated before 21?
Through the chair, it's tough for me to say. This, has been a property. It was not in the area that I typically look after, so I can't give a precise answer on that. It will likely have to do with staffing issues, and if we're hoping to fill the position we're in his previous role fairly soon, then that would hopefully help that out. But I can't say for sure.
Perhaps I can interject through the chair. We can report back at the next meeting. I mean, David's correct. With Miranda leaving, we're trying to sort of get the work plan, the designation work plan, and some of the other items sorted out. So if with the committee's indulgence, we can provide a more detailed update at the January meeting.
The Heritage Act would be in place at that point. And what would that do to jeopardize it?
Sorry, through the chair, I'm just thinking. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Sorry, I'm just trying to recall the changes to the Act at the moment. I mean, there's some requirements around the timing of bringing the bylaws forward, which would have no impact. Perhaps if maybe the committee can just give me a couple of minutes. I just want to refer to some of the Act changes to see if there is any impact. So maybe I can provide a response before the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
That would be great, Anita. We'll give you some time to do that, and that way we can let other members refer to other properties. Robin, is there any other properties you'd like to speak to?
There seems to be no updates with some of the other ones. Nothing going forward.
Okay, sounds good. Janice, you had some follow-up?
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And I'm just going to respond to the group with regard to some of the changes. The biggest thing for me is the fact that we would lose our Conservation Review Board, and anything that was being challenged would go directly to LPAT. And I can only say that LPAT has been not a friend of the Durand Neighborhood Association. But having said that, James Street Baptist, I just want to report that Luke and the project developer did take up my call to add a mural. Right now, there's a mural, and it's lovely. He hired local street artists. It is sitting on the corner of Jackson and James. However, 4/5 is incomplete. So I shall be sending him a note to ask him when he's going to complete the other part of it. It certainly makes a difference if you have to look at that corner. So that's good news. And another bit of good news is this would be 13.1B, and it's 52 Charlton Avenue West. I'd like that one removed. They are now undertaking heritage permits to bring the property up to use for an eye clinic and residential use. And so they're following all the correct protocols and channels. So if we could take that one off. Thank you very much.
Graham, did you have a question or want to follow?
Want to follow up on one report. Okay, with Long and Bisbee building on Sanatorium in the red, now them going to city and saying they want to be designated, should we move that off the red onto the yellow?
I think that would be a fair move.
Yeah, and how solid is this designation coming up? Like, I haven't heard much besides a little bit in the paper that they're going to do it.
Through the chair, I can try to address that if you like. I believe it went to council last week, and I believe the designation was approved. So I think the next step is for the NOID to be released.
Good.
And yeah, so it looks good so far, and we'll just continue on with the process, and yeah, we'll get that NOID released soon, and go from there.
I've been driving.
Sorry, Steve Robichaud here. Just to clarify, Planning Committee and Council amended what was included in the designation. Just want to make sure the committee members were aware of that. So the building itself was designated, but the landscape, and some of the other features were excluded at the request of the property owner. So we do have to report back on that sort of second phase of the designation of 828 Sanatorium. I just wanted to make sure when you were asking about how quote unquote solid the designation is, the building is being preceded with the designation, but some of the other surrounding landscape features and some of the contextual features were excluded from that notice of intent to designate at the request of the property owner. Thank you.
Okay, so we need to look at that a little closer then. Now, did I hear it right? They are bringing the Cross of Lorraine into the designation?
I believe so. I think so I would suggest that we leave this on the sort of as is, because it's sort of a work in progress since we have to report back. They are in on a development application for the larger property, and that's why the council agreed to defer part of the consideration. The Cross of Lorraine being on public property. I can't remember, Anita, if you can recall if it was included or excluded from the designation. I know it was the bridge and some of the other features were excluded. Sorry.
Through the chair, I can clarify. So the designation did include the building itself and the Cross of Lorraine. The elements that were removed and would be review through further consultation with the community related to the curvilinear street pattern, the pedestrian bridge, the stone bridge and the stone pillars at the entrance. So some of those landscape features were removed, but the intent was that through the development applications and through the ward councillor's office, that there would be further consultation and communication with the public. And then in future, a new designation would be brought forward to reflect whatever those conversations whatever the final conclusion of those conversations were and that communication with the public.
Okay, thank you.
So Graham, are you okay with just leaving it as on the list as is?
Sure, because I go by it often anyway. I was just hoping it was a little better news than that, but there's not much we can do.
Yep.
Leave it on the red for now. I'm by there twice a week anyway.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. So we'll just going back to Janice's property. She had recommended that 52 Charlton Avenue be removed from the list. Tim, did you want to second that or question?
Yes, through the chair. I had a question about that, and it may go to Janice and also involve Chuck as the chair of the permit review committee. This building is quite known to Chuck and myself at the permit review, and this to Janice as well. The applicant has been in a few times and is very engaged applicant in the process. But I don't think I'd be wrong in saying there is still some controversy over some of the features and things that are being done in this property as far as removing heritage. What is what is the overall arc? It's going to be watched by staff and this sort of thing, but I don't know if you're, and I mean, again, not going to overstep into what the Durand neighborhood looks into or doesn't. But I know that he's supposed to have came and kissed the ring of the Durand neighborhood to get their blessing. So I wanted to just clarify if this was the blessing from the Durand neighborhood, Janice.
No, the applicant was asked to come and speak to the Durand Neighborhood Association, and he never did. And I think I was chatting with David, if I'm not mistaken, David, about 52 Charlton, or maybe even Chuck, because I have not seen all of the information. I had a very early draft of what was going to happen with 52 Charlton. And I think I said to David, my concern was for the neighbors that are living there as residents, concerned with having a parking lot on the front of the property, because at one point in time, his concern was that there would not be sufficient parking for his clients. And if one were to go in the back of that property, as I have done, the entire backyard is totally asphalt. There is no greenery at all in that backyard. So maybe Tim, you're correct. Maybe this should be a watch and see until all is said and done. I can certainly live with that. Thank you.
I only look out for your best, Janice. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. So we're leaving that property on the list then? Okay. All right. Any other members wishing to speak to property updates?
Will here.
Will?
Can property tell us, can heritage planners tell us what's happening with 18 to 24 King Street East? It seems like nothing happens. It sounds like a never-ending story.
So through the chair, so those are the Gore buildings that live on the south side of the Gore Park, and they have received site plan approval, and they were. I know they were looking at getting the soil cleaned up and doing their work for the record of site condition. But as far as I'm aware, they are moving ahead with the project, and yeah, I don't know if Shannon, if you have anything else to add. I see you popping up there.
Hi there, through the chair. There was one outstanding condition associated with that site plan approval for a record of site condition. That has not yet been cleared. That is still outstanding with that site plan application.
Pardon the interruption. It's Lorraine from the clerk's office. Oh, no, I think the problem has fixed itself. Never mind.
Nothing further from my end.
Thank you, Will. Any other property updates? Anita, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I had an opportunity to look at some of those changes to the Act to refresh my memory. So I think there's sort of three areas where there would be some sort of, if you want to use the term impact. I think Janice did mention the LPAT. Yes, she's correct. So any appeals would go to the LPAT instead of the Conservation Review Board. The other two areas where there would be some difference would be that the content of the designation bylaw would need to include mandatory information that's now included in the provincial regulation. So the bylaw would have to be specific to address the regulation. And then I think I mentioned this one before, we have 120 days to pass the bylaw after the notice of intent to designate has been issued. So those are sort of the three key areas where there would be a difference between sort of what would be today and what would be happening January 1st. We did ask the province for a number of items to be clarified. We're still waiting for that response from the province, and we'd also requested that they delay the start date, but we also have not heard anything back from them. So I don't know, Steve, if you have any additional information to share on timing, but as far as I'm aware, these changes would still be going into effect January 1st.
I think the only other element is if there's a request to remove a designation, that also goes to the LPAT. So even if you were to designate a property today, in January 1, when the new legislation takes effect, the owner could write into City Council, request that the designation be removed. If Council doesn't act or denies the request, then they could refer that to the LPAT, and the LPAT could make a determination as to whether or not that designation should stand. So that's the only other element to consider in that process, as I understand the legislative changes. So, like I think when Ms. Fayback indicated, we are waiting to see what the province does in terms of all the feedback they've received and whether or not they proceed with the proclamation of Bill 108 Schedule 6 relating to heritage. I think it's Schedule 6 as relates to the Ontario Heritage Act in the new year or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Robin, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, just to follow up with that, has the notice of designation been approved or stated for the gatehouse?
Through the chair, not that I'm aware. I mean, David, I don't know if you and Miranda had a chance to discuss that before she left, but I have not seen anything.
Through the chair, that's correct. Yeah, no, there hasn't been any notice issued for the property.
Thank you for clarifying that. If there's no other members wishing to speak, no updates, then may I have a motion to approve those reports? Do I have a mover and a seconder? Bill, seconded by Lynn. Is there any opposed? Seeing none, that item's carried. So before adjournment, is there any new business from our members? I see Robin's hand.
Just a request about, or a question about Bulls Lane on the escarpment. There seems to be Bulls Manor still existing there. Has anybody looked into that as a property for designation or protection?
Would any member of staff like to speak to that?
Through the chair, Alyssa Golden here. Off the top of my head, I recall there's a few properties on Bulls Lane that are inventoried. I don't believe anything is registered or any requests to designate have come in for that street.
So Robin, were you looking to recommend something or? Robin, you're on mute.
I believe Harry Stinson owns the one I'm discussing or thinking about. and he has the designation properties that he owns already in heritage buildings. So he may be approachable.
Oh, okay, so you're thinking of investigating. Do you have the property address for that? The property?
It's right at the very end of the lane.
Janice, I think Janice has a comment to add to that.
Does he own the cliff, Robin?
Janice, you are you're muted right now.
I'll
So we cannot hear anything that you're saying.
Sorry, this question through the chair is to Robin. Robin, I thought the house that Harry Stinson owned was the one not at the end of the lane, but the one between Diane Dent's house and the one at the end of the lane. To see the one at the end of the lane, it says private property. I've tried to go in there and take a look, and I stopped myself. So he owns both those houses?
I don't know that for a fact.
I don't think so.
No, he only owns it. The one that I thought was at the end. And
No.
sorry, that's the phone call. I need to go.
Okay, so for clarification, that one is not at the end. I know exactly which one he owns. So the one that he's talking about, maybe there should be some investigation into it. I know it has a history. I know that the Bull family owned all of that property, and I do know that they own the laneway, so that anybody that drives on that laneway, they're driving on Bull's lane that is owned by the family that owns the stone house. That's all I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. So maybe we'll have to pursue that a little further and do some investigating. All right. Any other new business? So I guess just one item that I want to bring forward is that, as mentioned, our next meeting is going to be in January. So we won't be meeting in December, just with the timing of meetings and with Christmas holidays and whatnot. So again, our meeting will be towards the end of January, and Lorraine will be sending out those dates shortly, and we'll be getting all of our 2021 meeting dates organized. But with that said, as everything with this year has been, we're going to miss out on our get together as normal for our December meeting and Christmas. So I guess just before we adjourn, I just want to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I hope everybody stays safe. And I hope all of their family that you get to spend time with. I hope that everyone stays healthy and that you can enjoy the holiday time. Well, we may not all be able to get together in person, but these kind of meeting calls, this is what's going to be our holiday time. So I just wanted to tell everybody thank you for all the work that you've done this year. And thank to Lorraine. We're both here singing masks, getting through the meeting. But again, I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe and healthy holiday. If there's no other comments or questions, there's Lorraine. I'm not the only one with them. Now, new mandatory requirement for City Hall.
Good.
If there's no other comments, may I have a motion to adjourn? Both hands, come on. What are you waiting for? I got Chuck and Graham. Is anybody opposed? Seeing none, thank you, everyone.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thanks, everyone. Happy New Year.
And it's interesting to know we're off for 3 months.